أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كلامه المجيد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإن عاقبتم فعاقبوا بمثل ما عوقبتم به ولئن صبرتم لهو خير للصابرين صدق الله العظيم. My respected brothers and sisters, this is the weekend of commemorating the tragedy of 9/11. American brothers and sisters, including the Muslim community of North America, are going to be reflecting upon the tragedy of 9/11 10 years after it took place in 2001. It was really a tragedy. The tragedy which changed America as well as changed the Muslim world, I would say, as well as the Muslim community of North America. It was the worst day of American history, and I would say also it was perhaps the best day of American history. The worst in the sense that more than 3,000 innocent people, they lost their lives. And most of them, with the exception of almost 55 military personnel who were killed in Pentagon, everybody else was a civilian. The Jews, the Muslims, the Hindus, the Christians, the Buddhists, whosoever was working there was killed. And I knew some of the Muslim friends, especially a very close friend of mine from New Jersey, who was working there and was originally from Pakistan, went from North Tower to South Tower to save some of his friends, and then the tower collapsed on him, and poor guy died over there. So that was something which all of us, we watched. More than 1,355 people, they were killed because of the fire, because of the smoke, and some of them, they jumped from 110th story. Many of us, we have seen those pictures, the pictures of falling men. They jumped from those stories to save their lives and could not save themselves. So definitely, it was the worst day of America. And you can call also, this was the best day of America because it brought the best out of American people. The sense of national pride, national unity. No difference between Republican, liberals, conservative, or Democrats. Everybody was American. Patriotism, charity, sense of love and compassion. The police people and the fire workers, they took the leave of absence from their jobs to go and assist the victims in New York. And I would say perhaps it was also a day of change for the Muslim American society. Because we Muslims, we were accustomed to live in our mosques and always be in our comfort zone and think that we are doing the work of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and perhaps we are the best of the nation and the best of the ummah. It forced us to come out of the minor league, playing on the corner of the street. It thrust us to play in the major league, to confront the stereotypes and all of those accusations which will be leveled against us as Muslims and against our religion as a faith group. All of us, we know that all the Muslim American organizations, including ISNA, ICNA, MAS, CARE, AMA, AMC, you just name it, and the juristic councils like Fiqh Council of North America or Sharia Scholars Association of North America, SANA, without wasting a second, they came out and issued unqualified condemnation of these acts as crimes against humanity. The international Muslim community, international organizations, they did not wait even for a second to call it the crime against humanity. Sheikh Yusuf al-Qaradawi, who is otherwise very critical of the foreign policy of United States of America, also call it the crime against humanity and not against American people. All of us, we know, we Muslims, we donated money. We donated our blood. Many of the Muslim physicians, they went and they offered the medical assistance. Many of our Islamic organizations provided food and shelter. But you know what happens? 10 years after that incident, when we look back and we look at the tragedy of 9/11, really it seems that it is the true tragedy for America especially, and for the Muslim community of North America, and the true tragedy for the Muslim as the community at large in the whole world. Why? Because the way response took place against the tragedy of 9/11, it has hurt the Muslim community the most, the Muslim world also, but the most critical damage has been done to our beloved country, the United States of America. We had two options: to have a compassionately wise response, or to have the rash response. Our policymakers, they decided to opt out the rash response. The wise response would have been to go after those terrorists and those organizations who masterminded that kind of crime. Go after them one by one wherever they are found. Bring them to justice or to kill them. Doesn't matter, because they were criminals. They were terrorists. And nobody would have protected them, supported them, or helped them. Instead of that, our policymakers, they went and they occupied Afghanistan, a whole nation. The poor people or the innocent people who have got nothing to do with 9/11. Our policymakers, they went and they occupied Iraq and went to the whole world and lied to the whole world, seeing that Saddam Hussein has got the weapons of mass destruction. We put one of our heroes, Colin Powell, in front of the whole world and forced him to lie in the name of State Department, losing the moral leadership of America. We did not want to have another 9/11. But in the name of protecting those 3,000 victims or taking the revenge, we ended up killing more of our troops. If you look into the number of troops killed in Afghanistan or in Iraq, they are at least beyond 15,000. This is what is the Pentagon number. But if you go to body count Iraq or anti-war websites, they will tell you that somehow Pentagon has been misleading us. They will just give you the names of people who die on the land there in Iraq or Afghanistan, but those injured who die in Germany or in our veteran hospitals are not counted among them. But even then, the most conservative numbers, which are given by somehow, I would say, very conservative organizations, they will tell you that just in Afghanistan, more than 70,000 people have been either killed or injured, severely injured. And they will tell you that over 900,000 people have been killed in Iraq, and over 1.7 million Iraqis or Americans have been severely injured. These are the statistics which none of the anti-war as well as some of the body count organization will count. They would say that more than 2 million Iraqis have been killed and more than 3 million Iraqis have been injured. And they say closer to 1 million people have been either killed or injured in Afghanistan. And I'm not talking about the people who have been killed in Pakistan or in other parts of the world. Imagine what a rash response. We saw the tragedy in front of our eyes. We looked at the human suffering, and our policymakers did not win the sympathy of the world. and eliminate that terrorism from the heart of those people who somehow disagree with our foreign policies. That was the golden opportunity to prove to the world that these terrorists, that these fanatics, that these extremists, they are not Muslims. They do not deserve anybody's sympathies. They are criminals and they must be treated as criminals. But we ended up making our own country look like a rash country, a superpower who does not know the limits of justice, equality, or does not treat people equally. It does not make sense, my brothers and sisters, to end up killing over 1 million people. They are as human beings as we the Americans. They are not inferior in any way or the sense. And why to have the collective punishment to those innocent Afghanis, children, men, women, or in Iraq, those people who have got nothing to do with 9/11, nothing to do with terrorism, and especially once Saddam Hussein is gone, there should have been no occupation of Iraq. There's no premises, no condition, no way we can satisfy our mind that we are still there and spending billions of dollars there in Iraq. When Osama bin Laden is killed, when Khalid Muhammad Sheikh is in the prison, what is the point to be in Afghanistan? And my brothers and sisters, look at how much money we have spent. Yes, I mean, you can say that the loss of life and the property, and you can say the cost of production or services which we lost during the 9/11 tragedy, it has been said it is closer to $100 billion. That we lost $100 billion in those Twin Towers, Pentagon, or the type of production or the business which we were doing before 9/11. But look at, the report came just recently from Brown University, and I'm going to read it for you. The Brown University professors, economists, anthropologists, and scientists, they have brought the report and they say the United States of America will have spent a total of $3.7 trillion on wars in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Pakistan, costing millions of lives and creating 7.8 million refugees. By the time the conflicts end, according to a report recently released by Brown University. The report, written by more than 20 economists, political scientists, lawyers, anthropologists, and humanitarian personnel for Brown's Washington Institute for International Studies, gives staggering estimates for the cost of military action in those three countries. Nearly 10 years since US troops first entered Afghanistan, the report estimates the final cost of all three conflicts will be between 3.7 trillion and 4.4 trillion, far higher than 1 trillion price tag given by President Obama in the beginning of this year. The report estimates the US government has already spent between 2.3 trillion to 2.7 trillion. Long-term obligation to war veterans will cause the price tag of the conflicts to climb for decades after troops have returned home. My brothers and sisters, all of us, we know that the wars do not come to an end when they really come to an end. You have to pay for all of those suffering military veterans, to pay for the contractors, to pay for the building. And according to some of the estimates, 230,000 American troops have just the brain injuries. How many of them have lost legs and arms and lost their lives? No estimate. Imagine, for years to come, we are going to pay for those people who died or who sacrificed for our country. And those people who made the decision are sitting in Crawford or sitting in Nevada enjoying those billions of dollars, and the Americans are still paying the price. I was listening to Ron Paul, and he said, a year before 2001, a year before the 9/11 tragedy, He said, I was very pleased when I listened to President Clinton, who was boasting about the historical surplus in American budget. And he says, 10 years after the statement of Clinton, I was dismayed to listen to Vice President Biden, who he said that we are paying more money to avoid just bankruptcy. Imagine, the superpower, the most sophisticated nation in the world, the most educated and civilized country in the world, is paying for the mistakes and misdirected policies of our rash leaders. We somehow forgot what happened to Russia. Russia came and occupied Afghanistan. It was not the military powers or victories which pushed out Russian power or military from Afghanistan. It was the economic exhaustion. We know what happened to Russia in the Cold War. It was military might which subdued Russia. It was the economic cripple down which crippled that superpower. And when Ron Paul said it, wallahi, it clicked to me. He said, it seems that the terrorists are winning and we, the educated people, are losing. Ron Paul has counted the statement of Osama bin Laden. He said that he said that we are not going to win the war against the United States of America, but we are going to make them bleed to bankruptcy. And he says this is what is happening right now in 2011. So when I reflect upon the tragedy of 9/11, I really feel it was the tragedy when it happened, and it was the tragedy for our country for the last 10 years. We have lost the moral leadership. America was respected and loved. I can tell you, I have lived in England, and I am a personal witness that even to get the smile out of some of the English people was so hard. You have to just push them and say, hello, good morning, and even then they will not smile in your face somehow. And when I first time came to America and everybody saying, hello, hi, how are you, and smiling, I really felt I have come to an Islamic country. I felt more love. And with all honesty, I can tell you, whenever I would travel, and maybe many of you are witness, to even my own back home country, Pakistan. As soon as I will land in Pakistan, I will feel insecure from the police, from the thugs, and unless I leave the airport and sit in the aircraft, I will never feel safe in my own country, in the city where I was born. I can tell you, wallahi, I swear to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm standing on the mimbar of Rasulullah sallallahu. I will feel sometimes very discomfortable even in Makkah and Medina. Why? Because the system. Because you have to stay there in lines and wait, and sometimes you lose your bag and you do not know what are you going to do with your heart. And you will not feel comfortable until you land in New York or in Miami or somewhere else. But 9/11 has changed so much that now you are free in the whole world, and as soon as you think of landing in New York or Chicago, the first thing comes to your mind, what type of question they are going to ask you. You start checking your pockets. Is there anything which you do not know of? Because one time I was asked about something which was in my overcoat, and remember I was living in Florida, there's no use of overcoat at all. So I had to go to England. I put on overcoat which I have not used for 4 years. And there was a receipt from JCPenney from 5 years ago in the pocket. When I came, they asked me about that receipt and I do not know. And they grilled me about that and thought that perhaps I was lying to them. This was the situation before 9/11, and this is the situation after 9/11. That we Americans, we are paying with our freedom, with our liberty, and especially with our love for this country. Wallahi, I can tell you, since 9/11, the PATRIOT Act, it has given so much unconstitutional right and authority to some of the government agencies that they are prying in the personal affair or upon the personal affairs of Muslims as well as Americans. From phone calls to emails to personal records, medical records, financial records, you just name it. And you have heard the ACLU and so many other civil liberties organizations coming out and filing suit against those PATRIOT Acts. But I was just reading yesterday a report which one of the Jewish reporter, and I believe his name is Joe Carter, he has published about the NYPD, New York Police Department. And this is what I'm going to read from his report. He said the NYPD's spying operation. Now he is quoting the secret documents which have been now made public. The NYPD spying operation has compiled information on 250 mosques, 12 Islamic centers, schools, 31 Muslim student associations, 263 places it calls ethnic hotspots, such as businesses and restaurants, as well as 138 persons of interest, according to the intel documents. Police have singled out 53 mosques, 4 Islamic schools, and 7 Muslim student associations as institutions of concern. They have also labeled 42 individuals as top-tier persons of interest. At least, they are just talking about the 5 boroughs of New York, not the whole United States or the state of what? New York. Just the 5 boroughs of New York. At least 32 mosques have been infiltrated by either undercover officers, informants, or both, according to documents which are dated between 2003 and 2006 and marked secret, just in 3 years. Is this the response to 9/11? Is this the type of America we want to see? Is this the way we are going to make a whole community responsible for the mistakes of those culprits who have got nothing to do with Islam? We Muslims, we are tired of those people, wallahi, more than anybody else. We have condemned them unequivocally at every stage. And I know in person, on the Fiqh Council's roster, Sharia scholars rosters, ICNA's roster, wherever you go, you have condemned it day in and day out. But even now, after 10 years, those condemnations are not mentioned anywhere, but still because somebody is Muslim, part of Muslim organization, you guys have not done enough to condemn 9/11. And when you look at these Islamophobes, like Daniel Pipes, like Horowitz, like Spencer, Alan West, somehow they are astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. I was listening to Glenn Beck some years ago, and he said that we Americans have got the tendency to put the razor wires and put some people on the other side of the boundary. And I'm seeing the Muslims on the other side of the boundary. If they do not come out and shoot these terrorists, where do you want us to shoot these terrorists? We have got police, we have got, mashallah, army, we have got the agencies. Why do you want the Muslims to shoot out? Please, if you find any terrorists, put them in the jail, do whatever you want to do. We are law-abiding citizens, tax-paying citizens. We love this country. We want this country to be safe, prosperous, and secure because this is our future. This is the future of our children. Where do you want us to go? We have left those countries and adopted this as our homeland. So treating us as the suspicious, as the fifth column, is not according to the spirit of America. So my brothers and sisters, when we are reflecting 10 years from what happened 9/11, it's a wake-up call for us, the Muslims also. We need to do the work so that we can figure out that there are some remnants of fanaticism among the Muslims. We need to pinpoint them, we need to tell them you are absolutely wrong, we need to condemn them, and there should not be any qualification when it comes to the condemnation of violence, those kind of fanatic acts, and those people who will in any way or form try to hijack Islam in the name of Islam. At the same time, it is our responsibility to come out to the American society and tell them without any qualification that wallahi we love this country, perhaps more than you people. We love this country because we have left our countries, and those countries are not worth us living there. Otherwise, we would have not even come here. And at the same time, Islam is not something which will discriminate based upon ethnicity, religiosity, or color. Quran has made it clear that if you kill one soul, whether Muslim, non-Muslim, you have killed the entire humanity. Man qatala nafsan bi ghayri nafsin aw fasadin fil ard faka'annama qatala an-nas jami'an. And if you save one life, you have saved the entire humanity. So from us, the Muslim perspective, we will never allow or condone or in any affair form be happy upon the murder or the killing of an innocent human being, whether Muslim or non-Muslim. At the same time, it's time for us, the Muslims, to go out and remind our policymakers that this country is not what you are trying it to be. This country is founded upon justice, upon equality, upon tolerance, upon rationalism, upon compassion and love. Go back to the Constitution, go back to the founding fathers. They stood in the face of intolerance, and especially religious intolerance. You cannot be calling yourself American and be intolerant. You cannot be calling yourself American and bashing a whole faith or a whole community based upon 19 people's mistake. Somehow, these people and these media pundits, they have got the capability to separate between Christianity and the acts of Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma bomber. Or they have got, just right now, Glenn Beck was feeling sympathy for Andrew Breivik, the person who committed the massacre in Norway, because he's a Christian, but he cannot see, he sees even a sister with the burqa as Nazi. When, that savage, who is really savage, Mark Savage, he says, whenever I look at a lady with the burqa or hijab, I feel a Nazi is coming who is going to chop my head. But he does not see that there are Christian right-winger, those kind of people who are calling for the elimination of everybody other than Christian. There are Jewish terrorists who have killed people in Hebron. And somehow people were able to separate between Judaism and Baruch, and Christianity and McVeigh and Anger, but somehow every action by an ignorant Muslim seems to be the responsibility of Islam. Is that what is the American spirit? Is that what we are getting out of the tragedy of 9/11? So it is important for us that when we are making the dua and prayers and supplications for the safety of our country, for the safety of our brothers and sisters here and abroad, for the safety of our community, we also do our work of outreach and tell the American people, these leaders are taking our country to the wrong direction. They are taking it to anti-American spirit. We need to bring back America back to its true spirit, back to its true constitution, and back to its true sense of justice, equality, and tolerance, and accommodation of each other. We are all American. America will be a lot safer when we love each other, we respect each other, and we trust each other. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم.